This is Brian with a Redefined Life. Well, I got a couple news articles I'm going to share with you here, give you something to think about what's going on in the Christian community. The first one's from the Dissenter magazine, and the title here says, Words Have Power. Now, this gets into a political discussion here, but I want to separate the political side from just what the meaning and some of the points they point out in this article. As it says here, words have power. When we say something, are people receiving it as what we mean it, or are we receiving something that somebody else has said and we're taking this how we would believe it, but it wasn't the intent of the person saying it, what they actually meant? This goes into about the enemy's weapon while wearing the uniform. You might think you're being clever, but all you're doing is surrendering before the first shot is fired. And when it becomes the Christians, having the knowledge of Christ written on our hearts and a foundation of truth upon which to stand, ideologically surrendering is much worse. So they're using these terms in our society of same-sex attractions and gender justice and this reproductive health care, and they kind of sound clinical. It's almost like I'm an alcoholic and I got a drinking problem, so it's not as bad. And it's taking a sin and kind of minimizing it. It goes on here, it says, let's be clear, this is not about being kind or loving or hospitable or engaging the culture. This is about truth versus lies. The Bible tells us, let what you say simply mean yes or no. Anything more than that comes from evil. But when we kowtow to the linguistic demands of the left, and let's just take the left out of that and just put society there, your yes becomes a weak well, maybe, and your no becomes a mealy mouth, not exactly. This isn't biblical faithfulness. It's a spineless accommodation. It's theological cowardice dressed up as a cultural engagement. One of the most overused phrases in evangelicals is same-sex attraction. It sounds clinical, harmless even, like describing a dietary preference. But what does it actually do? It divorces the sin from the sinner, reducing a moral rebellion against God's design into something as benign as a preference for chocolate or vanilla. When Christians use this term, they smuggle in the idea that sin is simply a condition to be managed, not an affront to the holiness of God to be repented of. It's a Trojan horse, and many of us have welcomed it right in through the gates of the church. As gender-affirming care, if ever there was a phrase that dripped with Orwellian doublespeak, this is it. There's nothing affirming about pumping kids full of puberty blockers and slicing healthy body parts off of a confused teenager. It's mutilation, pure and simple. And when adopting this language, it lends legitimacy to the lie. It's not engaging or building bridges, it's enabling and burning the truth to the ground. There's a sanctification euphemism of reproductive health care, as though slaughtering an unborn child is moral equivalent of treating a sinus infection. Fortunately, most Christians don't use this phrase yet, but trust me, it's coming sooner or later. How can you proclaim the sanctity of life while parroting the language of those who advocate for its destruction? You can't, and simply can't. The undocumented worker. It is used in place of a legal alien to obscure the criminal activity of entering the country illegally, and typically they cloak it in the language of loving your neighbor and made in the image of God. We have to be careful not to minimize sin. We hear these terms and stuff throughout our society, and if you speak against, for instance, immigrants that have come into this country illegally, that we're somehow being unfair or unloving, that these people have broken the law of this country. If you're going to come into this country, for instance, then obey the laws of this country. I just want to share this article because a lot of times we throw terms around and it takes away from the validity of what the sin is, and it minimizes it. And when we start doing that, it becomes a slippery slope where we start to justify it. And then once we start to justify it, we take that and we start incorporating in our lives, and then, we start going off the rails really quick. So the next article I want to share, and it's heartbreaking to share this, but I think it needs to be shared because everybody knows of the abuse that was in the church. But this is an example of somebody that is stepping up and taking accountability, and they're resigning from it. But they've brought this again to the light, and I think it's good because there are victims involved in these, and it is nice to see that the church is taking responsibility instead of just shoving it under the rug and forgetting about it. So this article is crosswalk.com, and this is the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, steps down after an abuse scandal. Now, this is an Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, leader of a church in England, and the Global Anglican Communion, has resigned due to a backlash regarding an abuse cover-up scandal. According to the Christian Post, Welby announced his resignation on Tuesday in a statement posted on the website here, stating that he has received the gracious permission of King Charles III to step down. So there was a review here that exposed the long-maintained conspiracy of silence as the hideous abuses of John Smith, stated Welby. When I was informed in 2013 and told that police had been notified, I wrongly believed that the appropriate resolution would follow. It is very clear that I must take personal and institutional responsibility for the long and re-traumatic period between 2013 and 24. The former Archbishop said that he hoped the decision makes clear how seriously the Church of England understands the need for change and our profound commitment to create a safer church. It's just nice to see that there is church leaders that are stepping up and taking accountability for what has happened. And hopefully, if there's any good from this, is the fact that it is bringing church awareness back up to the forefront. Church leaders need to be aware. People need to be vetted. Safeguards need to be in place. We need to continue to pray for church leaders that they make good decisions on how their practices and policies are instituted within their churches. Hey, thanks for watching. Just wanted to give you a quick news update on a couple of articles out there. I will continue to bring these news articles to you as things develop and things get posted out there. If you not like the videos, please do. Please subscribe. Please share these videos. It just helps with this YouTube algorithm. If you hit that little ding, ding, ding bell up there, you'll get notified of any new videos that get posted. Thanks for watching.